I'm Brian Christner, and this is The Byte, a bite-sized podcast about containers, cloud, and tech.
Welcome back to The Byte. This is episode number 60. Can you believe it? We've hit 60 episodes already. Congrats, everyone. That's awesome. Anyway, I wanted to say we're going to keep going. I'm really enjoying this. I'm actually kitting out my microphone and my whole desk here going, so it's going to keep going. I really appreciate everybody tuning in and expect some discounts and some great things coming down the pipeline that I can provide everyone coming up. So in this episode, we're going to talk about the GitHub Octoverse Spotlight. Now, I'm actually going to change my scene. Ooh, look at this. I'm trying OBS at home. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you see a little bit different experience. Anyway, back to the storyline, and we're talking about the GitHub Octoverse report Spotlight. And if you're not familiar with the GitHub Octoverse reporting, they actually create like a State of the Union, and you can go over here, State of the Octoverse, and it's basically a rundown of the past year on GitHub. And this is from 2019, and you can see, for example, the expanding Octoverse. Last year, 2019, they saw an increase of 10 million users, developers signing up to GitHub. So that's really impressive. It's also statistics about issues and pull requests and how long it takes for people to actually solve issues. So it's a lot of interesting statistics. But in this episode, we're actually going to cover an analysis on developer productivity during the COVID-19 and how collaboration has changed during this whole time. So it's quite interesting because now we can actually see, what's the difference between being locked down and being at home and working differently, and how our working life changes, and it's changed dramatically. So the key findings in this report, if you go down, and it's really quite interesting because developer activity remains largely consistent, if not maybe increasing. Now, if you break this down, and each of these sections, you can actually jump down to the actual report and get the statistics. But what's interesting is, developers are continuing to work. I mean, we're at home. We need to continue pushing and fixing things. And we're very fortunate to be in this position. But at the same time, it's interesting statistics because you can see where outbreaks occur for example, if there's a big outbreak and everyone is forced to lock down, there's an influx in enterprise issues being filed. So it's a direct correlation. So if there's a huge lockdown, then enterprise issues spike. That's quite interesting. The cadence of work has also changed because now developers are working at home. They have less distractions. They don't need to commute. That also, the downside of that is developers are also working longer and more frequently on weekends. That's good and bad because, I can see it in one aspect. Hey, I have more time on my hands. I don't need to commute. I don't need to do certain things. But at the same time, as you see in the next point, is these are signs of burnout. So we really need to look after each other. Take your breaks. I mean, me personally, I work quite hard. I get up early, but around lunchtime, I go out for a mountain bike ride. I try to really take a break, get away from the computer, and get outside, get some fresh air, really disconnect. Don't have your phone, don't have your iPod or anything like this, or AirPods. And just try to really disconnect. Try to get out there and get some fresh air and try to understand. Walk around your house a couple times. I mean, that really maintains your healthy mental state. And I can't stress this enough. So just get a little exercise. It doesn't have to be running, doesn't have to be a major sport, but get outside, walk around the block. I mean, that's all it takes. The next point is people are collaborating more, especially on open source projects, which is, I've seen this in my personal projects. I've seen a lot more issues opened. I've seen more merge requests. And I'm sorry, I'm slacking there, but I need to get back to these. But it's just showing that the community as a whole is spending more time in open source. Now, the cadence, if we go back to that, the activity between the first and last push has increased. So the cadence of work is changing. And this, if you really dive down into this particular point, it shows that the West Coast particularly is increasing the work volume. So that's quite interesting as well. And you can see, a lot of statistics going on here. The workday, previous to COVID-19 was just very normal. And then right around beginning of March, you see huge increases in percentage on the first and last push average. So it's the days are just increasing. Additionally, you can see what this means for me. But if I go back up here and go down to productivity and activity, then you can see, for example, the productivity from this year compared to last year, you can see it's just like double-digit increases across the board. In the Northern Hemisphere, the Southern Hemisphere, we're seeing, about 1.5%, 2% average across the Southern Hemisphere. And it just shows, we're in a different state. We're working from home. We're trying to do something a bit different that we're not completely quite used to yet. So we need to find our rhythms. We need to really take care of ourselves. Merge requests, I also found quite interesting because, let's see, work cadence, I think it's here. Work, let's see, merge. Yeah, we found time to merge requests. And this is quite interesting. So this chart actually shows time to merge pull requests. And if you look previous to COVID-19, you can see the average in this year. So from January, it was around 4 hours in January. Then in February, it was around 3 hours. And now during COVID is under an hour to merge something. So people are a lot more responsive because, they're not stuck in meetings. They're not, distracted by the office politics. They're really able to focus. So there are some positives. There are definitely some negatives going along here. If I can get a merge pull requests in under an hour, that's really impressive. More collaboration tools are being used. So if we go back up to the top and you can see collaboration, they really say, since we are working more with like Slack and Zoom and Teams and different tools, there is more collaboration. It's hard to get this data because I read the report and they say, you don't see the data as far as like if people are having more or less meetings because that's kind of different tooling outside of GitHub. I would venture to say the meetings are staying the same, if not increasing, because I see like Packet.net recently introduced like a lo-fi Wednesdays, and I'll put that in the show notes because people are getting overworked as far as like online collaboration tools. So they're trying to take a break once a week, saying, hey, no Skype calls, no Teams, no Zoom calls. People can kind of get back to their normal rhythm and they, don't always have to be in a face-to-face meeting online with somebody. So there are some periods like that. It's a really interesting report. I read through it. It's just showing that, generally our collaboration is going up. We're seeing more open source collaboration. Productivity is going up, but at the same time, we're working more, which kind of, like I said, it's very strong signals for burnout. So we really need to take care of ourselves. We need to get outside, really step away from the computer, set a timer. I don't know, have some sort of app on your computer to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, but please take care of yourself. And, it's an interesting report. The Octoverse spotlights on developer productivity in the COVID-19 days. It's interesting statistics, and I really encourage everyone to take a look and also take a look at your working rhythm and see, hey, how can I improve myself? Am I working too much? Do I need to take more breaks? So really take a look at that because we all need to take care of ourselves. That's all for this episode. Episode number 60 is in the books. Have a great day, everyone, and see you next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Byte. You can find the show notes at thebyte.io and follow me on Twitter at I Do My Own Tricks.